Now that it's officially November, people are looking forward to the legislative session. And probably one of the most influential people in that session will be the winner of the floor leader race. And a candidate, Representative Kirk Mathews, is here to join us. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Scott. Appreciate it.
Interesting thing. I think the folks that watch this show know what a House floor leader does, but he's the person that decides what comes to a vote. You can have the best bill in the world. If you don't call for it, it doesn't happen. Why you're running for the job?
You know, we have a big caucus. We have a supermajority.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of ideas that are not getting to the surface. And one of the things that I've been doing and traveling the state, meeting with my colleagues, is learning more and more about those. We all go down there with the idea of making the biggest impact we can. I think the biggest impact that I can make is helping our caucus ideas get to the surface and get heard, get the fair debate that I think that the voters sent them to Jeff City to get heard.
Your background has been a successful businessman.
Yes, sir.
You carried the Uber bill this session.
I did.
That was an accomplishment folks have worked on for a very long time. Tell us about that bill, and is there anything people need to know that's happened since session?
Well, there's always special interests that are going to work against a bill like this. This is a great jobs creation bill. It was a high demand service that the citizens of Missouri wanted to see across our state. The bill puts a statewide regulatory platform in place that allows just that. But just because the governor signs the bill, it's put into law, doesn't mean the fight's over. There are still special interests, and you mentioned what's happened since session. Our airports are governed by the Federal Aviation Administration, and so the transportation network companies have to sort of cut their own deals with each airport around the country within the framework of state statute. And the special interests were still at work even after the bill passed here, trying to kind of prevent that from happening here in St. Louis at our airport. So I had to re-engage in that fight a little bit. Got involved with the airport commission.
Where's it at right now?
Right now, they've come to a deal.
If you're walking through Lambert Airport, watching This Week in Missouri Politics, can you get an Uber, or do you have to go across the way to get a cab?
You can get an Uber or a Lyft.
Or a Lyft, got it.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the race that's happening this coming Tuesday. There's no floor leader race if the current floor leader, Mike Searpoy, doesn't win his Senate race. Interesting race. You have the Democrat. You have a third-party candidate, Jacob Turk, that's been aided by some Democrats.
Yes.
Running. Do they cut the ballot enough up for Shields to win?
Look, no, I don't think so. Look, Mike has served our chamber of the House very well and served in leadership, as you know, as a floor leader. For two candidates that decry the political establishment, meaning the two candidates that are running against Mike Searpoy, they sure were a pretty quick study in the school of dirty politics, right? I mean, this is unprecedented to see the husband of the Democratic candidate sign the petition in hopes to split the Republican vote. And the good news about that, Scott, is that the voters are smart. The first poll that came out may have been deceiving for them, seeing Mr. Turk on there, but the voters are figuring this out. The latest poll, Mike's ahead. Mike might not win as huge as he would have otherwise, but Mike's going to win.
I'm going to hold you to that. We're filming this, you know.
Yes, I know.
So I hear a lot of folks. You do a lot of interviews. You won't get asked that many times about guns and abortion. You've had the majority now for going on 15 years. Is there anything left to do on, say, abortion? I mean, it looks like you've passed every bill you can possibly pass. Is there anything else you could do as a floor leader on abortion?
Well, when I mentioned just a minute ago that on the Uber issue that special interests will never give up the fight, this is a never-ending fight. There's always more we can do. Until abortion is outlawed, then there's more that we can do. And I think that fight's going to continue. I don't see that fight going away.
What do you say to a person, though, that says until the Supreme Court changes, there's not much you can do in the House of Representatives?
Look, the Supreme Court was a court decision. It wasn't a state statute. Missourians are pro-life. Another thing I've learned by traveling this state for the last 6 months is that Missourians are pro-life, and they're going to be behind whatever we do in the legislature.
Probably throw pro-gun in there too, right?
Exactly right. And I think there's tons of outstate voters who were once Democrats.
Sure.
And the Democratic Party has left them far behind a long time ago with their shift towards other radical issues. But Missourians are pro-life and pro-gun, and I think that's what they want their legislature to be.
Interesting thing, I see people surprised when Republicans run as pro-life, pro-gun candidates and they go to Jeff City and they vote for pro-life, pro-gun measures.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one where the process is involved, right to work. Probably the biggest issue I've heard Republicans tout coming out of session. There's a measure, it looks like it's going to be on the ballot to repeal that. Now you're hearing some rumblings from some Republicans that say the legislature should get involved and maneuver this around. Is that something where you respect the process?
Look, whether you like it or not, Missouri is going to be a right-to-work state. There's going to be tons of positioning and jockeying on both sides of that issue in the coming months, in the coming years, and we'll see how that goes. But Missouri will be a right-to-work state.
I'm just a simple hillbilly. My question is, if the voters' intent is not to be right to work, or before they even get a chance to voice their opinion, will the House of Representatives try to influence and monkey with the vote?
I don't think they'll try to circumvent the will of the voters. But I think that most Republicans in the legislature believe that the voters will vote down an attempt to repeal right to work.
Interesting. Let's talk a little more about your style on the floor. Every time there's a new election, it seems like people get a chance to try out different types of leadership. As far as the way the floor is ran right now, if you're a moderate Republican, conservative Republican, a Democrat, what can they expect to see if you're running the floor in January?
Look, I think that the floor needs to be run with a resolute hand, a steady hand, a level head, but very resolute. Look, the tricks that we're seeing from the Democrats in Mike Searpoy's Senate race, we're not going to put up with that kind of stuff on the floor. We have to have a firm grasp of what's going on the floor and control that. We're not going to let Democrats have the last word on controversial issues. I can't stand that. I think that as the floor leader needs to control that. I will communicate with the minority leader of what we're going to do, how much time they might get on a certain bill, and what I tell them they can take to the bank, because that's what we'll do. And I think that's the way you earn respect. That's how you keep control of the floor.
So I notice a bit more sternness in how you talk about how you're going to run the floor than I think we've seen in the past. I've also seen the Democrats, from the special election in the 50th district to some of the tricks played in the 8th district. There's a different feel to that party now that they don't have the White House. Are you saying maybe it takes some of more aggressive tactics to manage a party that's becoming more aggressive?
I think it absolutely does. I think that we have to limit the debate look, when we have a difficult debate on a perfection bill, and then 2 days later we're in third read, and we're going to, there makes no sense to listen to that same debate over and over again just to give the Democrats sound bites and bits and pieces for the media to pick up on. And
sometimes they're clever.
Sometimes they are, but that's not the way we should run. We have a supermajority. We're going to use that.
So when you're on the floor, can we get some of those clever sound bites from you? Will you be addressing these issues on the floor?
Well, I will tell you this. When I was my first session in the legislature, when Todd Richardson was our floor leader, and there would be a controversial bill going on, and he did this selectively, but he would kind of deliver the hammer. He would deliver the closing argument from a conservative's perspective, and then he would move the previous question. And as a first-time legislator, that always gave me a lot of encouragement. It was the right thing to hear and do, and that's what I intended to do.
I think of two bills that I can think of off the top of my head that Todd turned around, probably, that you guys were making have to pull off the floor, that he turned around with the final speech. The managed care bill. I don't think that passes without that floor speech.
I absolutely agree.
Let me ask you, so you've been traveling all around the state seeing your colleagues. You've probably been on more miles of Missouri highway than maybe anybody else this interim. Let me ask you this. Are you seeing on places where there's gravel roads and lettered highways, how's the president doing there?
Oh, President Trump, I think if we had the election today in outstate Missouri, he would win by more than 19. He carried our state by 19 points. And outstate Missouri, that's one of the beauties of running for leadership. You get around to see, you get to learn these districts, and you get to meet with your colleagues and hear what's important to them. By far and away, President Trump is getting high marks out in outstate Missouri.
So when you look at 2018, I mean, Claire McCaskill's had a history of going to outstate Missouri. She doesn't win it, but she doesn't lose it by near as much as other Democrats. Is there a way to run alongside Donald Trump for Josh Hawley and defeat her? Or is there, because of some little bit of daylight between the two, can she come in there and fill that void and get reelected?
I don't think she can. I think Missouri voters are wising up to Claire McCaskill's tactics. Claire McCaskill is two different Claires. In Washington, D.C., she is a liberal's liberal. When she's in outstate Missouri, you would think that she was a Republican. And I think Missouri voters are wising up to that.
You have 117 seats. If you win this majority floor leaders race, you'll head the House Republican Campaign Committee. Can you win any more seats? Is there any more seats Republicans could possibly win?
Look, I think that we're heading into a couple of tough election cycles. Sure. When the pendulum swings so far in our direction as it did our last election cycle, natural inertia is going to bring it back to center a little bit. But yes, if I'm a floor leader and I'm involved in helping run HRCC, we're going to target to improve our supermajority, not just be satisfied with where we are.
Representative Mathews, thank you for joining us. Good luck in the election.
Thank you for having me, Scott.
And we hope either way you'll be back here to join us on This Week in Missouri Politics.
Be happy to.
And we hope you'll stay with us after the break. We have Jane Dueker coming up next.
In 2008, Republic Services acquired the Bridgeton landfill in a merger. Since then, we've invested $200 million to clean up the site and to maintain environmental compliance. We do that while staffing the facility 24/7. That's because we support permanent solutions that are safe for our neighbors and clean up the environment. We're committed to doing what's right. That's what drives us every day. We're a part of the community, and we are here for the long haul. Republic Services. We'll handle it from here.
My name is Eric Philippi. I'm a veteran, a carpenter, and a father. When Eric Greitens said he was going to change politics as usual, folks like me didn't think the first thing he'd do as governor was take dead aim at our jobs and our families' livelihoods by working to repeal prevailing wage. Call Governor Greitens. Tell him to protect prevailing wage and to protect my family, not destroy it.
At Ameren, Missouri, we believe in the power of light. It makes scary stories less scary, and nighttime adventures more likely to last the night. A bright enough light can illuminate opportunities to affect positive change, neighborhoods that need a helping hand, and the advancements needed to ensure tomorrow is a little cleaner than today. Transforming the future of our community by shining light in every direction. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics. Our opinion maker panel now. Joe Patterson, St. Louis County Police Officers Association. Welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me.
David Gregory, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Jane Dueker, friend, welcome back.
I'm happy to be here. Happy Friday.
Good buddy, Representative John Mayfield, former legislator from Jackson County. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Jane Dueker, the previous segment we saw Representative Kirk Mathews running for floor leader was bringing heat. We've seen the Democrats get tougher. Are we seeing the Republicans now raise their game?
He actually schooled you like I
A little
schooled,
bit.
I schooled you in fantasy football. I mean,
It reminded me of KMOX when you would just go crazy at me.
I tell you, and I guess is that a new tone? It'll be It'll be really interesting to see. I think we're seeing everybody up their game. And I think he decided I'm coming to play. And so I think that'll be good for you.
Looks like you did.
It looks like you did.
Representative, you have served under different floor leaders.
Yes.
The floor leader we saw that's running against Representative Vescovo in the caucus election, he looked like he was going to be a little bit different to deal with for the Democrats.
Sounds like there's going to be a new sheriff in town, maybe. I know floor leaders I have dealt with are very nuanced in policy and legislation and dealing with the personalities in the Capitol. And they do have a tough hand behind the scenes, but they don't like to show it all the time because different situations call for different approaches, and sounds like there's going to be a tougher, newer sheriff in town, so
like
it'll be interesting.
Bringing heat.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if I could add, Scott, Kirk's nice when he needs to be nice. He builds relationships, but he's tough when he needs to be tough, and that's the perfect blend. It's the perfect recipe of leadership we need in the House, especially with the rifts we sometimes have in the Senate. So I'm really excited about Kirk.
Joe Patterson, an interesting thing, you look at the issues and the makeup of the House. I mean, the Republicans have a super majority. I mean, I don't know how you could fit any more Republicans in. But still, I mean, there's a Democrat class of freshmen that is very talented. Crystal Quaid, Peter Mayer, Stephen Roberts here in St. Louis, Greg Razor. I mean, it's a group that's got a lot of ability. Maybe the Republicans now are seeing they have to raise up a little bit to deal with that.
There's a ton of talent in Missouri politics right now, but what I'm seeing as an outsider, it's nice to look at and watch the more nuanced responses we discussed earlier. I think some of these social issues are a big deal. My main criticism of some of these young Democrats is it seems like there's a battle royale to determine who's the ultimate social justice warrior. That's one of my criticisms as a police officer. So what I'd like to see more is leadership. I would like to see, let's get off the streets, let's get into the House when session starts, and let's start fixing some of Missouri's problems.
Interesting thing, let's talk about an issue, Jane, they broke earlier this week. It was a letter that Senator McCaskill and Senator Blunt sent to the governor, and he fired back. I mean, the governor fired back in a letter that he leaked to NPR. He called it, we don't need more meaningless letters from career politicians. I mean, it's over the veterans issue. There's obviously a problem at the veterans home or veterans care here in St. Louis.
And it absolutely needs to be fixed. And look, I can listen to him when he calls out people for doing stunts, when he stops zip lining into events. I mean, I thought that was way over the top. we have to work with our congressional delegation. Again, you just talked about balance, being tough when you need to be tough and working people when you need to. That did nothing other than just make him feel like he was, I don't know, beating up on somebody. Our senators work well together. Look, they're going to fight. They have partisan issues they got to deal with, but we have a pretty good congressional delegation. And I liked what Senator McCaskill said. She's like, basically, you need to toughen up. You got a state problem with your state-run facility. Just go fix it.
Representative Mayfield, you've received and sent a lot of letters in your time in government. This letter that was sent by the senators, yeah, I mean, it pointed out a problem. It didn't seem all that aggressive to me. His response was, if you lost a copy of the report, you can Google it. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, I can't say that I have. I believe that the letter that Senators Blunt and McCaskill sent the governor was very benign. I thought it was somewhat supportive, saying, hey, we believe there's a problem here, and we're here to help you. You tell me what we can do to help you, and the governor kind of turned around and tried to throw it back in their face, and think he's a little inexperienced, and hopefully these things won't happen again. But this is a serious issue, and we need to fix it. People care about solutions.
Joe Patterson, this is a style that the governor pretty much adopted with the state Senate. But I mean, when you're talking to Senator Roy Blunt, there's probably not one person in elected office today that represents Missourians that has done more for veterans than Senator Blunt. It's an odd place to take him on at.
It is, and I think this is what you're seeing more in politics of a popularist approach. It's nice. It might get you a lot of likes and shares on Facebook or Twitter, but at the end of the day, we don't need to share blame. If we can at the state level and at the congressional level realize the problem exists, the next step is actually fixing the problem and not trying to be popular about it. Let's figure out, let's get the stakeholders at the same table, and let's actually fix this.
David Gerg, it's an interesting thing. You see this type of fighting with Republicans and Democrats sometimes. Now you see it Republicans and Republicans. He said some pretty tough things about the legislature too. How do you go from those remarks to actually fixing the problem?
Yeah, you know what? I don't tend to get as offended as some others. You know what? We're professionals. We can take a few hits. It's not a big deal. I think we need to continue to stay positive and stay focused on fixing these problems, and not be so focused on someone might have hurt our feelings.
You know what? I can't agree with you more. I've about had it with hearing about everybody's feelings.
Yeah.
Feelings don't matter. We need to do things. Everybody, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right, and just because you're offended doesn't give you a solution. We need to stop, I think, get away from feelings. Take some of that. I mean, everyone needs passion for every issue, but passion alone will not get you across the finish line in finishing anything. And so we need to channel our energy into coming up with things that we can all agree upon. There's a lot of consensus out there that the sniping is preventing.
I don't think what I saw in those back and forth letters wasn't that there wasn't consensus there's a problem. It was basically the governor trying to say, I'm doing things about it, and your, meaningless letters from career politicians.
Right.
I mean, to me, it wasn't so much that there wasn't a problem, that there wasn't being addressed. It was trying to maybe facilitate blame of that problem.
Well, except that we had our federal delegation trying to help. I mean, you can't tell me that it's not nice to have the federal delegation come in and help. I mean, they talked to the Veterans Affairs. He mentioned things that he wanted from them in that letter. You're not going to get things when you say that. I mean, you could be tough, but I think that we need to start separating some of that, and I think people are starting to see through it and saying, you know what, show me what you're going to do. I don't want to know how you feel. Show me what you're going to do.
John Mayfield, it's an interesting thing, though. Do you think this is a microcosm of some issues that are in the Republican Party? I mean, when you get this big and you hold as many offices the Republicans hold, it's kind of hard to stay together. Do you think this is a window into some cracks that were already there?
I think there are some cracks there. I mean, as you mentioned, when they get so big, I came from a big family. Trust me, there's a little bit of elbowing and pushing goes on every once in a while over some of the most silliest of things at times. But the public, they just care about solutions and trying to take care of them. And quite honestly, if I were the governor, I would welcome Roy Blunt's help every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
You think this is an issue that exposes some already cracks in the Republican Party right now?
You know, Scott, I think it's more of there's going to be some more nuances. The Republican Party is going to have to find its way. I think that the Democratic Party in the state of Missouri has started to lose its way, and they've lost a lot of seats because of that. Yeah. Some of these social issues, and as a police officer, I'm much more sensitive to it because I'm the one getting thrown bricks at on the street sometimes. So, but let's look at issues of law and order. The Democrats don't seem to do anything besides blame the police for a lot of these issues. The Republicans have almost at some point in time unbridled or unrequited support of the police. I think the right answer is somewhere in the middle. Let's get together and start solving some of these issues. I think at the end of the day, as Jane said, feelings need to stop mattering and facts need to start mattering.
David Gregory, let's talk about one of your colleagues who's running for office 2 days from now, on Tuesday, Mike Searpoyer, running in a state Senate race that's become very interesting against an independent candidate and a Democrat candidate. Tell us about Mike Searpoyer, and do you see him winning?
Oh, I see him winning. I'll tell you what, Mike is an absolute upstanding professional. I got to deal with Mike my first session. I'm finishing my first year, and dealing with a leader like that as a freshman, he was sensitive to that. He knew there are some things that we don't know, we don't have the experience on, and he'd bring me in, he'd show me the way. He'd always, he cared about what I thought, even though as a freshman you may not have the influence that other juniors and seniors have. So his compassion coupled with his knowledge and ability, I don't see how he loses.
Jane Dueker, there was an interesting thing. I saw the commercial. Tim McKernan here in St. Louis pointed out and took a little offense to Mike Searpoyer's commercial that said the riots in St. Louis have made Missouri a laughingstock. Now, keep in mind he's running in Kansas City, but I thought that was pretty salty language, and I also thought it got your attention and let you know where he stood.
Oh, it absolutely did. I mean, it did cause a lot of anger, and I think, people being in St. Louis who are sensitive about what this is, what the unrest has been doing to our community. And then some of you say, that could win him the election, which is also a very sobering thought in the sense that we have somebody from across the state looking over saying you're not doing it right. And, and I know Kansas City, that side of the state has often felt that St. Louis did the same thing. So, sure. Karma is a very interesting force in the world. So I think St. Louis is seeing a little bit of karma. So I think, the opposition has put up a good fight. I think he squeaks out. And I think this is good for him because I think this will get him some of the metal that he's going to need. The Senate is a shark tank, and it's rough in the Senate right now. And I think this is probably a good primer for anybody that gets that seat. I think he inks it out, but it's going to be tight.
You're in that media market. You know that district very well. My experience being in Lee Summit is that commercial will go over extremely well with people in Lee Summit.
Well, I can tell you that my old House seat actually had part of the 8th senatorial in it, and it's going to go over very well with older conservative voters that he needs to come to the polls.
Which make up Lee Summit, right?
Yes. St. Louis is always a good punching bag when you need it for Kansas City politics. We have the Sprint Center thanks to St. Louis, so I think that's a page out of that playbook. I think Mike is going to eke out a win. I think it's going to be a lot closer than he would like. But Hillary Shields has been underestimated this whole race. She's knocked on 23,000 doors, made thousands of phone calls, put up a very game fight. She's got a boxer's chance. It all depends on turnout.
We're going to see her name again, whether she wins or not, right?
Absolutely.
Joe Patterson, is an interesting thing as a St. Louis County police officer. You hear folks in Kansas City saying that the riots that have happened here, riots that you've been on the front lines defending the public from, have made Missouri a national embarrassment. I think that goes over well in Kansas City. Is it true?
I think it does. I think Kansas City's job, at least from a spiritual sense, is just don't be like St. Louis. This is a shame. I mean, I'm a St. Louisan, born and raised. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. These goes down the issues we need to work together as a community, black and white, police officer and citizen, elected official and voter, and come together. And it's time to, we can draw our battle lines and say, I'm on this issue, I'm on that. But as we talked about, sort of the theme of today's panel, these feelings, let's remove our feelings. Let's bring our feelings down. Let's bring our emotions down. Let's raise our thoughts up. And let's actually try to solve some of these issues.
But do you think that Representative Searpoyer has a point?
He does. And in all honesty, the Missouri Fraternal Order Police, of which I'm a member and a president of a local lodge, we endorse Mr. Searpoyer on that one. Do I love the ad? No, I don't. And if I had to pay for that ad, I wouldn't have made it in that tone. But at the end of the day, is it going to be effective in Kansas City? Absolutely.
Let's talk about another race, the U.S. Senate race. David Gregory, you know Josh Hawley well. The race is off. Obviously, he's running against a very formidable politician in Claire McCaskill, but she's running in a redder and redder state. Tell us about Josh Hawley.
You know what? My dealings with Josh have been wonderful. I mean, I'm pretty excited. To me, he's like a prototype candidate. He's young. He's very well educated. He's sharp. He's articulate. He always speaks very well, and he's genuine. He's very kind, very genuine. When you meet him or when you listen to him speak, there's really not a lot that you don't like. So, to me, he can also raise a lot of money. So to me, he's the prototype candidate. I'm really excited about him.
Joe, that's an interesting thing. He's the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Missouri. His interactions would matter. Where do you think you'll be and the police organizations will be in a matchup with him and Claire McCaskill?
We're going to look at these issues very closely. These are two tremendously successful candidates. Josh Hawley did not earn the endorsement of the Missouri Fraternal Police for his Attorney General run last year. However, he was the first statewide elected official to reach back out. I think that not only is he at face value a prototypical candidate, I think if you were able to manufacture a candidate, I think you would get Josh Hawley. I think as Representative Gregory says, he speaks well, he presents well, he's extraordinarily educated. But what I'm very enthused and what I'm excited to meet him one-on-one and to learn more about him is that he'll also reach out. So he has the people skills on top of that. It's not fake.
Jane Dueker, I mean, I know you're a friend of Claire McCaskill's. I want to ask you about Cortland Sykes. I mean, the videos he's done, it just touches every box. If you read like the Facebook page of a outstate angry person, if you were going to click every box of how you'd run against a very good candidate in Josh Hawley, he seems to be doing it.
Oh, I watched it more times than I care to admit. And what I will say is, outside of the Senate race, he's given Greg Keller a run for hair.
You better watch it, yeah.
Now, there's
the
nothing
hair,
wrong with good hair.
I mean, yeah, but he's so
clear
got
here,
you.
Jane.
He's got you on product, though. I'm sorry.
all right,
I mean,
fair enough.
wow. I mean, I honestly thought it was a Saturday Night Live skit. I was like, this is spectacular. And then I sat back for a minute and said, oh my gosh, like this is gonna work. Like this is gonna give Hawley a run for his money.
You don't want to see that if you're Josh Hawley, right? John
Right.
Mayfield?
I don't think you do. No.
But the question would be, does he have money to actually take a message like that and put it out?
I don't know, because some people reject that. I mean, so I think that you can never say, especially in a Republican primary, that nothing matters. All of it matters.
We thought there was maybe too much aggressiveness from the Greitens campaign, and the governor's primary obviously was successful. This is obviously more aggressive than that. Is it just fitting the times?
I think we're going to see what the public thinks. What's our appetite for some of these sort of showboating of politics? It's very low on substance, very low on policy, it's very low on facts, but it's really good on production value. So where are citizens at? Are we going more toward an idiocracy? Or are people going to sit back and say, you know what, I really don't like this, is a little too cheesy for me. I want someone that's a little more real.
Well, let's with a minute left, let's ask who won the week.
I'm going to say Rick Stream for bringing the issues at the Veterans Care Home to light. Rick Stream's a very serious guy. He's far from a flamethrower. If Rick Stream's saying there's a problem, there's probably a problem.
Who won the week, Jane Dueker?
Claire McCaskill, when she told the governor to basically toughen up, dude. And she knows. She's been there. She has been through a lot more. She's put people in prison. She has, been a senator. She's been an auditor. She's been through a lot more. And if he gets sensitive over that, she's right. He needs to toughen up.
David Gregory, who won the week?
Oh, it's obvious. Mike Searpoy. He won the week, and he's going to win the Senate election.
I think if he wins his election Tuesday, he'll win the week next week.
Yeah, that's true.
Who won the week?
I'm going to say St. Louis County residents. We finally got the pay raises and the last few bits of Proposition P money through the county council unanimously, and I am very cautiously optimistic for our friends in the city, and I hope they follow suit.
I'll say Chris Dinkins, a new candidate down in southeast Missouri. She's been a legislative assistant. She knows the issues. She's the Republican candidate in the special election. I think it's a good thing to see people that know what they're doing get put for office. We hope that you'll come back next week so you'll know a little bit more about this week in Missouri politics. This Week in Missouri Politics, brought to you by Spire and Sterling Bank.